Hey guys, tonight we sneak into a tower where the Archmage is supposedly snoring so hard it distorts the fabric of space-time. You know, the usual. Your mission? Simple. If you ignore the death traps, reality-bending puzzles, magical creatures, and the very high chance of becoming a crispy puffball if you step in the wrong spot. All for a treasure that legend says the Archmage only dreamed into existence. Literally, he sleeps and it manifests. That's how powerful this guy is. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, I'd love to know where you're watching from and what time it is. Drop your city and your current time in the comments. I always imagine someone in Tokyo listening at 3:42 a.m. eating toast with Stardust jam. Totally normal. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You find yourself on a narrow ridge overlooking the Forgotten Valley, where the Archmage's tower stabs at the sky like an arrogant finger pointing at the stars. Moonlight drapes everything in cold silver, and the wind howls like it's trying to talk you out of this very brave idea. The tower itself is massive, gothic, creepy. You half expect it to yawn and go back to sleep like its master. But it just stands there silent and judging, with crooked spires and moss-coated stones. You've hiked through 2 days of goblin-infested woods just to get here, and now your boots squelch with every step because apparently no one told you the marsh around this place was also magically sticky. Awesome. As you inch closer, you spot the first challenge. Jagged rocks form a narrow path leading to the base of the tower. They glisten wetly under the moonlight, slick as melted dreams. You squat low, crawling across like a very committed lizard, trying not to think about how far down it is on either side. Then, crack. A sound underfoot. Not from you, you freeze. A shadow darts across the rocks ahead, too fast, too graceful to be a raccoon. You strain your ears and hear nothing except the wind, and your heartbeat trying to audition for a drumline. But no, it's fine. Just your nerves. Definitely not something tracking you, right? As you reach the tower's base, you press your palm against the ancient stone. It's warm. That's not supposed to happen, is it? The door looms ahead. Twisted iron vines seal it shut, but there's a sliver of open space just wide enough to squeeze through, assuming you're not claustrophobic or allergic to centuries-old magic. You step in. Inside, it smells like dust, lavender, and a hint of burnt toast. Yep, you've made it. The door creaks shut behind you, like it's personally offended you made it this far. You're standing in what appears to be a long-forgotten greenhouse fused directly into the base of the tower. Vines tangle up the walls like lazy serpents, glowing faintly with residual enchantment. Some of them pulse. You really hope that's just photosynthesis and not a sign they're sentient. A narrow dirt path winds between overgrown planters, filled with strange flora, luminescent mushrooms that seem to shy away from your gaze. Flowers that blink, yes, blink. And a bush that makes a low, purring noise as you pass it. Honestly, if you weren't already knee-deep in a quest for a dream-born treasure, this would be enough to turn around. But no, nap loot awaits. Your fingers trail along a vine-covered wall. It shudders. You freeze. The ivy here isn't just decoration. It moves. Slowly, deliberately, and when you look up, you spot thin tendrils hanging above, poised like a bunch of very lazy, leafy spiders. One of them drops in front of your nose. You flinch, stumble back, and realize the plants are watching you. Cool. Great. Totally relaxing. You hear a soft hum, not from the tower, not from you, from the ivy itself. Like it's whispering. You can't quite make out words, just gentle vibrations brushing against your thoughts. Images of intruders being gently cocooned for eternity. Classic ivy behavior. You crouch low, remembering the map etched into the letter you found tucked in that cracked tome. Slip through the whispering wall, it had said. Right. So you slide to the far left planter, part the curtain of hanging vines, and squeeze through a narrow crevice. Your cloak snags. You tug. It holds. The vines constrict slightly, like a toddler refusing to let go of a balloon. With one last yank, you break free and fall forward, landing in a soft pile of moss and discarded parchment. You're in a new chamber. The vines don't seem to follow you here, as if respecting some invisible line, or maybe they just don't like the lighting. Either way, you're not complaining. A spiral staircase, ancient and cracked, curls up. The staircase stretches upward like a coiled spine, winding into pitch-black uncertainty. You step cautiously onto the first stone step, and it lets out a groan loud enough to make your soul cringe. For a moment you freeze. Did that sound wake anything up? Anyone? Anything? Silence answers, except for the faint echo of your heartbeat ricocheting off the stone walls. The spiral staircase is narrow, claustrophobically so, and there's no handrail. Of course not. Why would a centuries-old, possibly sentient tower adhere to basic safety standards? That'd be far too convenient. You press one hand against the cold wall, the stone slick with condensation. Or maybe magic sweat? Honestly, at this point, you'd believe either. Each step feels like it takes you deeper into a memory that isn't yours. Runes carved into the stones glow faintly under your touch, as if recognizing you, or mistaking you for someone else. Either way, you don't touch them again. Some of them twitch. Midway up, you pause. You swear you hear something above you, a soft sigh, followed by a mumble. The Archmage? You tilt your head, listening. Pineapple. No. More gravy. Comes the faintest whisper from far above. You blink. Okay, definitely sleep talking. You stifle a laugh and immediately regret it as the vibration causes a flake of stone to fall from above. It pings off a stair 2 levels down. You wait, hold your breath, nothing stirs. You press on, the stairs narrowing further as you rise. Around the 7th or 8th turn, something scuttles past your foot. You do a not at all dignified hop of panic and flash your lantern downward. It's a book? A tiny 4-legged book? Covered in dust, pattering along like a grumpy cat. It stops, looks up at you, yes, the book, then mutters, rude, and scurries into a crack in the wall. You are 99% sure you're not hallucinating, which means you're in a tower where books have attitudes. Delightful. Finally, you see it. A small landing where the staircase ends. A hallway stretches forward, dark and impossibly quiet. But just before you step off the last stair, you glance down. The staircase you just climbed? Gone, vanished into shadow. Guess there's only one way left to go, forward.
The hallway breathes. Okay, maybe not literally, but it sure feels that way. You take one cautious step, and a soft gust of warm air brushes your face, carrying the scent of cinnamon, ozone, and was that pickles? You're surrounded by an impossibly long corridor, lined with thick stone walls. But what catches your eye are the floating candles. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds. They hover in the air at shoulder height, flickering in synchrony, casting gentle rhythmic shadows that stretch and curl like they're trying to tell you something in interpretive dance. You take another step. The candles drift away, staying just out of reach. The floor beneath your boots feels unusually soft for stone, springy, like walking on a mattress someone accidentally enchanted. You bounce slightly with each footfall, trying not to smile at the weirdness of it all. Then, whip, a candle flares extra bright beside you. You flinch, it dims. You swear it just winked at you. Nope, not gonna deal with that right now. As you proceed, the air grows heavier, as if the tower's ancient enchantments are watching your progress and gossiping about it. The candles begin to cluster together above you, casting long, angular shadows that stretch down the hall ahead, revealing that the corridor is not exactly linear. It curves in ways that defy architecture, spiraling and folding back on itself like a crumpled scroll. But somehow, you keep moving forward. Maybe, possibly sideways? Directionality is starting to feel optional. One particular candle glows green and darts ahead like an eager firefly. Curious, and against your better judgment, you follow. It leads you to a branching doorway made entirely of mirrored glass. You lean closer, and your reflection smiles at you before you do. Yeah, okay, no thank you. You back away slowly. The green candle dims, almost disappointed, and returns to the swarm above. Then the shadows ahead shift, and something, a small hunched silhouette, crosses the hallway up ahead and vanishes. You freeze mid-step, one boot hovering, but nothing else moves. You exhale slowly and keep walking, arms slightly raised like someone expecting invisible lasers. You're maybe halfway through the hallway now, though halfway is a generous guess since geometry here clearly doesn't believe in straight. You push the door open an inch at a time, careful not to let it creak, though of course it does. Because enchanted towers don't believe in stealth, just drama. Beyond the door is a library, and not your average dusty shelves and stern silence kind of place. No, this one floats, literally. Bookshelves spiral up into the air, forming a slow-moving cyclone of tomes, scrolls, and parchment. A few armchairs and tea tables drift lazily between them, like furniture on vacation. Somewhere far above, a grandfather clock hangs upside down, ticking sideways. You don't even want to think about the physics of that. The room hums with energy, like a giant brain, half asleep, still dreaming in words. You take a cautious step inside, boots thudding softly on the polished floor, and immediately a leather-bound book flaps its covers and flies away like an annoyed pigeon. "Sorry," you whisper, because why wouldn't you apologize to a book at this point? A cluster of tomes rotates gently nearby. One of them stops mid-air and orients its spine toward you. Its title, How to Lose Friends and Hex People. Lovely. You scan the room, searching for anything that looks remotely like a clue, or, better yet, a shortcut. And there, tucked into a carved reading nook, hovering just a few feet above the ground, you spot it. A thin, gold-bound notebook, pulsing faintly. You don't know why, but it feels important. You reach for it. Just as your fingers graze the cover, a gust of wind blasts from somewhere above. Pages whirl, shelves shift. The book slips from your grasp and begins floating upward, weaving between the rotating stacks like it's playing keep away. You chase it. Kind of. Okay, it's more like an awkward hop climb crawl across floating furniture while trying not to die. You leap onto a drifting armchair that helpfully scoots forward just in time, then scramble onto a rolling bookshelf. It tips. You yelp. It catches itself mid-air, seemingly offended. Finally, after a mildly terrifying lunge, you grab the gold notebook and tuck it under your arm. The moment you do, the room goes still, silent. The floating begins to slow. The shelves ease into place. One last page flutters to the floor beside you. You pick it up. It reads, "He sleeps, but his dreams are traps. Step lightly." The silver-etched doorway narrows behind you like a mouth closing after a quiet burp. Yeah, charming imagery, but hey, welcome to your life now. The air grows colder, tighter, like it's wrapping itself around your shoulders in a very clingy, possibly jealous, magical hug. Ahead of you stands a tall mirror. Just one mirror. Framed in twisted gold and silver filigree, taller than you by several feet and pulsing faintly with arcane light. No cracks, no dust, just waiting. You pause.
Mirrors in magical towers rarely say things like, "You look great today." They're more the "let me eat your soul and trap you inside me forever" kind. Still, you inch closer. You can't help it. The mirror's surface isn't quite reflective. It's watery, like melted moonlight. Then it starts to shift. And what you see isn't your reflection. It's you, but afraid, trembling, reaching towards something, then recoiling. Behind you in the vision, endless doors, each one slamming shut, over and over. You try to turn your gaze away, but your feet stay rooted. The mirror you, that other you, starts to speak. Lips moving, silent. You squint, trying to read them. They say, "Don't wake him." Okay, chill down the spine intensifies. A pulse of magic hums beneath your boots, and the mirror ripples outward like a pebble dropped into deep water. Suddenly, your surroundings distort, walls stretch, air warps, and for a split second, you feel like you're falling inward. You snap back with a gasp. The mirror now shows something else, not you. It shows the Archmage, asleep. He's curled up in what looks like a hammock made of starlight, a faint snore causing waves to ripple through the very fabric of the dream space around him. His staff floats nearby, and books orbit lazily above his head like planets. Everything about him seems peaceful, serene, and terribly dangerous. You blink. The vision fades. The corridor narrows into what looks like an antechamber, or maybe a den. Either way, it smells faintly of lavender, firewood, and marshmallows. There's a soft rustling up ahead, like fur against fabric, or maybe something shifting in its sleep. You crouch behind a low, rune-marked bench and peek into the room. Yep, there it is. Sprawled across a circular rug like a living beanbag is a massive, magical creature. It's hard to describe because your brain keeps trying to categorize it and failing. It's sort of a lion, sort of a moth, sort of a floating, purring question mark. Its fur glows faintly with pastel hues, like a sunset got cozy and decided to nap. This must be the Archmage's familiar, a creature bonded to his magic, possibly even part of his dreamscape. And right now it's snoring softly, each breath making the runes on the floor pulse in sync. You inch closer, trying to stick to the shadows. The floor creaks beneath your weight, and instantly the familiar's tail twitches. You freeze. Its eyes stay closed. You resume your very slow, very careful tiptoe routine, weaving past piles of scrolls, potion flasks, and what looks suspiciously like a bowl of enchanted popcorn that keeps refilling itself. Almost there. The doorway on the far end of the chamber is open, just a few feet more. Then you feel it, a sneeze, not from you, from the familiar. It snorts once, then sneezes, violently, sending a puff of glittering wind across the room that knocks over a stack of scrolls with a papery crash. You flatten yourself to the ground, pretending to be a slightly anxious rug. The creature sniffs, groans, shifts its weight. Its ears perk. It sniffs again. You hold your breath so hard your lungs file a complaint. Finally, after what feels like 3 lifetimes and a bad lunch, the familiar lets out a sigh and curls deeper into its nest, tail thumping once, dangerously close to your boot. You wait 10 more seconds, then 10 more for good measure, and then you move, slowly, carefully, slinking past the creature like a guilt-ridden ghost. At the doorway, you risk one last glance back. Its eyes are half open, just watching, not attacking, not alerting the Archmage, just watching you go, like it knows. And maybe it does. You slip through the arch and leave the familiar behind, tail still twitching in its dreams. The door clicks shut behind you with a sound far too smug for an inanimate object. You exhale, quietly, and find yourself in a tall, narrow hall lined with smooth black stone. No floating candles here, just rows upon rows of glowing glyphs, etched into the walls like ancient graffiti written by overachieving wizards. They shimmer softly, some pulsing in rhythm like breathing, others flicker like lazy fireflies. But they're not just decoration. No, you feel them. Each rune hums with memory, like the walls themselves are repeating spells over and over, whispering their words into the stones. You take a few cautious steps, and a ripple moves along the runes near your shoulder, lighting them up one by one in your wake. The echo of a spell, gentle and strange, follows you. It's not menacing, not exactly, but more like someone whispering half a lullaby in a language your bones might vaguely remember. You reach out and let your fingers hover an inch from the wall. A nearby glyph flashes. You flinch back, and a voice, clear and ancient, echoes from nowhere. Speak not the words of waking. Cool. So, somebody's getting cranky about their nap. You tiptoe farther, but now the runes begin to change. As you move deeper, they shift colors. Blue, then violet, then deep amber. The hallway begins to curve subtly, and a low resonance builds in your ears. The spell echoes are getting stronger, faster. You realize what's happening. This hall isn't just enchanted, it's recording your steps, converting your presence into chant, a personalized incantation of you. That's either deeply poetic or wildly threatening. Could go either way. And then, mid-step, you freeze. Because one of the runes ahead of you just cracked. You didn't touch it, it just split. The air grows colder, your breath fogs up, the whispers stop. Silence, then a sound, like 100 pages turning at once. You spin around, nothing there, but now the runes behind you are dark. You step forward again just once and they return, but in a different pattern, like they're rewriting something. A path, a spell, a warning. You don't wait to find out. You keep walking, quicker now, until you reach the end of the hall where a stone archway leads into shadow. As you step across the threshold, the runes behind you all flare bright white, and then vanish. You swear the wall exhales. You're not sure whether it just finished recording you or erased you. You step into a circular chamber that hums with anticipation, like it knows it's finally showtime.
The walls are curved and smooth, carved from marble so dark it reflects just a whisper of your silhouette. In the center of the room stands a massive stone vault door, framed by arching tendrils of silver filigree and wrapped with glowing arcane chains. Yeah, subtle. Dead center on the door, a riddle carved deep into the surface. The letters are elegant, shifting faintly under your gaze, as if they'd really rather not be read before coffee. You squint and read aloud, softly, cautiously. I am always with you, yet you cannot hold me. I slip through your fingers, though I weigh nothing. Without me you're lost, but I leave no mark. What am I? Ah, classic magical nonsense. You pace. Could be memory? No, too vague. Could be breath? Tempting, but the second line doesn't quite fit. You mutter it again, tapping your lip. Slip through your fingers. Always with you. Leave no mark. And then it hits you. Time. You take a slow breath. Say it aloud. Time. The runes on the vault door shimmer like a smile, and the silver filigree begins to unwind itself. Gracefully, almost reluctantly, retracting like a flower at dusk. The chains clink and dissolve into sparkles. For a moment, you just stand there, because wow, you actually got one of those right on the first try. Usually, these things involve getting mildly electrocuted or randomly covered in magical glitter. The door groans open and inches, then another. The air that escapes is warm, like a sunbeam in winter, inviting. But the moment you step forward, something shifts. From the side of the chamber, a ghostly version of you steps out. Pale, transparent, and glitchy like a broken dream. It looks at you, sadly, then gestures at the door as if to say, "Are you sure?" You nod, instinctively, because hesitation in towers like this gets you nowhere. Probably, you step through the threshold and immediately feel it. Pressure, like walking into a memory too heavy to hold. The chamber beyond is small and round, its walls covered in runes glowing like trapped lightning. Dancing across black stone in constant motion, they swirl around the room in a loop, spinning like a lazy orbit. You're in the belly of the mechanism now. Dead center floats a large lock construct, suspended in the air by unseen magic. It's spherical, pulsing with arcs of golden energy, and ringed by 6 rotating runic plates. This is no ordinary lock. This is the kind that was designed by a wizard who clearly thought regular locks were for peasants. Each plate bears rows of ancient symbols, and as they turn, you hear a faint click, 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 like a puzzle slowly winding itself shut.
The sphere pulses once, scanning you like a very judgmental eye. You glance down at the gold notebook you tucked away earlier, and sure enough, it glows in your hand. A page turns on its own. There, instructions. Sort of. It reads, "Align the voices of sleep, trace their rhythm, break the loop, not the seal." You mutter, "Clear as mud, thanks," and reach toward the first plate. The moment your fingers brush it, the rune pulses and sings. Not metaphorically. It literally hums a musical tone, low and smooth, like a lullaby from a planet that only dreams. You spin the first plate, another tone. This one sharp, wrong. The lock flashes red and sends a tiny arc of energy into your wrist, like a magical slap on the hand. Ow, okay, respect. So, you listen closer, rotate the plates slowly, carefully. You begin to hear a pattern, like a 6-note melody, each plate contributing a tone. You hum it, match the rhythm, adjusting until each click matches the pulse of the room. When you finally lock in the last note, the sphere stills. A long silence. Then, chime. The chains dissolve. The sphere unfolds, petal by petal, revealing an empty space inside. But as you lean closer, a soft pulse of energy shoots from its core, sweeping across the room. And every rune on the wall goes out, darkness. Then, one final message glows beneath your feet. One path sleeps, one path lies, the treasure dreams between. And the wall behind you begins to shift. A secret passage opens, dark, low, and whispering like it knows your name. You grip your lantern tighter, because you're not stopping now. You duck into the secret passage, and the moment you cross the threshold, mist curls up around your ankles like it's trying to hold your hand. Not the sweet, gentle kind of mist either. This stuff glows faintly purple and has that weirdly shimmery quality that says, "Hi, I mess with your brain." Cool. You take a cautious step forward. The mist thickens. You can't even see your boots now. Soon, your knees vanish. Then, your hips. You're basically just a floating torso with trust issues. The tunnel opens into a circular chamber, walls lost behind a swirling fog. You raise your lantern, but the light scatters wildly like it's been drinking. From somewhere in the mist, you hear a giggle, then a rustle, then a voice that sounds suspiciously like yours saying, "Left is right, right is ruin." You spin around, no one there. Another step, and the air shimmers. You blink. Suddenly, you're standing outside the tower, back at the ridge, moonlight on your skin, ivy whispering at your side. Wait, what? You whirl, and now you're back in the tower hallway, the one with the floating candles. You blink again. Now you're in the library, books floating. One of them winks at you. "Okay," you mutter, gripping your lantern tighter. "This is fake. I've been mist-gassed by some smug, magical fog." You close your eyes, take a breath, think. This mist isn't random. It's dredging up memory and imagination, twisting space through your senses. You focus. You recall the gold notebook. Flip it open. A scribbled note glows faintly across the page. Trust only what you feel underfoot. Fog lies, stone does not. You nod, drop to a crouch, hands on the floor. There, grooves in the stone beneath the mist, a pattern, a path. You crawl forward, fingertips tracing the smooth curve of the spiral etched into the ground. Your mind keeps throwing distractions, images of open skies, familiar voices calling your name, even the scent of home. But you ignore them. The fog fights harder. A child's voice calls your name. A hand grazes your shoulder. You do not look up. You keep crawling. And then, thwomp, you fall forward. The mist disappears. The torchlight flickers softly as you enter the corridor, which is mercifully fog-free, but now unnervingly quiet. Too quiet. The kind of silence that makes your spine whisper, "Hey, maybe go back to the fog?" You take a few cautious steps. The floor here is made of smooth stone tiles, slightly glossy, like polished obsidian. The walls are decorated with intricate carvings of archers, dozens of them, frozen in the act of knocking arrows, eyes narrowed, all pointed at the center of the hall, which is where you're standing. You stop. Then you hear it. Fwit. Not loud, just the unmistakable sound of something slicing the air at dangerous speed. You duck instinctively, and an ethereal arrow zips just inches over your head, embedding itself in the wall with a ghostly thunk. No actual damage, but it leaves behind a faint shimmer, like a hole punched through moonlight. Another arrow flies, this one from your left. You spin and drop to the floor just as it sails by. You look up and realize the carvings have moved. Their bows are aimed again. Different poses, new angles. They're not statues. They're phantasmal archers, triggered by your presence. Awesome. You scramble to your feet and sprint forward. Arrows whiz past you, quiet silvery streaks that barely miss. The moment your foot touches certain tiles, you hear a faint click and know you've triggered another barrage. You duck, roll, and slide into a small alcove behind a stone pillar. From here, you catch your breath and notice something you missed in the panic. The floor tiles are patterned. Not just decorative, there's a path, a faint trail of tiny constellation-shaped etchings. You squint. The gold notebook whispers a page into your thoughts again. Step where stars lie, or fall where they don't. Right, time to play cosmic hopscotch. You wait for a pause in the barrage, then leap forward, left foot onto the tile with the constellation of the sparrow, right onto the crescent moon, left again on the seven-eyed wolf. Each correct step dims the archer's glow slightly. You're in rhythm now. You feel it. You jump, twist, dodge another spectral volley, and land neatly on the final tile, a perfect rendering of the sleeper's crown. The archers freeze. The hallway relaxes. A soft click. You step through the newly opened door and immediately stop short.
Stretching before you is a bridge, thin, gleaming, and utterly impossible. It's made of obsidian, polished to a perfect mirror-like finish, and it stretches across a yawning chasm with no visible bottom. The air is still here, suspended, heavy with the kind of silence that feels watched. There are no railings. Of course there aren't. The bridge is barely shoulder wide, and every step you take echoes with a soft chime, like a bell wrapped in silk. You crouch and tap the surface. It glows faintly under your touch, lighting up with soft lines of silver blue energy that snake ahead with every step you take. A trail, a lifeline. Well, if nothing else, it's aesthetic. You take your first real step and immediately feel vertigo. The obsidian reflects not just your feet, but the entire void below, a warped mirror of you walking above and seemingly below. For a horrifying second, it looks like you're falling up and down at the same time. You blink, focus, just keep moving. Each step triggers a ripple of light that spreads forward like ink in water. Behind you, the light fades, like the bridge itself is trying to forget you were here. Halfway across, you hear it. A sound. It starts faint, like fingers tapping glass, then louder, rhythmic. You stop. From the mirrored reflection below, your own silhouette begins to move out of sync. At first, just a beat behind, then ahead, then different. You raise your hand. Your reflection does not. Oh no. It tilts its head, smiles. You do not like this. You start moving again, faster now, refusing to look down. The air feels thicker. The bridge begins to hum, reacting to your quickened pace. Your reflection follows and then dives upward. You brace for impact, but nothing hits you. It just vanishes. As you take one final leap across to the other side, you land with a heavy thud, knees stinging, chest heaving. The bridge behind you flickers, then fades completely into darkness, leaving only silence. You step through the pale doorway and immediately feel the shift, not just in magic, but in mood. The tower no longer bristles with arcane tension, it exhales, like it knows you've arrived at the threshold of something sacred, or at least seriously nap-centric. The room is vast and circular, walls draped in deep velvet curtains, embroidered with constellations. Floating lanterns bob gently overhead like lazy fireflies, casting pools of soft golden light. And there, at the center, in a bed that can only be described as a cloud hammock made of literal star stuff, lies the Archmage. He's sleeping, deeply, snoring. Each breath he exhales sends out a soft, warm pulse through the room, like someone gently flipping the cozy switch on reality. You can feel it. The magic here is not wild or dangerous, it's dreamy, relaxed.
charged with the kind of arcane power that only someone utterly unconscious could wield with this much elegance. He's draped in layers of mismatched robes, one slipper dangling halfway off his foot. A scroll is tucked beneath his arm like a bedtime story. A staff floats nearby, spinning ever so slightly in a lazy orbit. You tiptoe closer, each step muffled by the softness of the carpet that seems to materialize beneath your feet. The gold notebook in your hand flutters open again, pages rifling themselves until stopping on a single glowing line. Disturb not the nap, or lose what you seek, but watch the breath and time your reach. Your eyes narrow. You glance around the room, and there, just beneath the Archmage's hammock, floating 6 inches above the marble floor, is a small glowing vault. Oval, elegant, sealed with a dream sigil that pulses in perfect rhythm with the old man's snoring. You wait. Listen. Inhale, pulse. Exhale, pause. There's a rhythm, a lull between his breaths when the sigil dims for a heartbeat. That's your window. You crouch, heart racing, an inch closer. The glow of the sigil brushes your fingertips with warmth, like liquid sunlight. You time it. 1 breath, 2, 3, then silence. You reach. Touch the vault. The sigil flickers, and you pull your hand back just in time as it flares white hot. You exhale shakily. Close. Too close. Okay, so this is a timed puzzle, with snoring. You sit back, listening again, syncing your breathing with his. You've made it to the center of. You kneel beside the floating vault, which hums like it's dreaming its own little nap loop right along with its master. Up close, the details are clearer. The chains aren't physical but woven from pure enchantment, shimmering with soft gold and opal hues. Each link pulses with a heartbeat of magic perfectly synced to the Archmage's snores. You study it carefully. The gold notebook shivers once, then opens to reveal a new sketch. An illustration of the chest, annotated with scribbles like, "Careful, dummy, dreams bite," encouraging. There are 3 layers of magic binding the chest. You recognize the first immediately, a lucid loop, a type of protection spell that resets any attempt to unlock it unless your intention matches the rhythm of the dreamer. Basically, if you're impatient, the lock just shrugs and forgets you tried. You watch the Archmage closely. Inhale, snore, exhale, snort. You time your fingers to that sleepy percussion, hovering just above the first glowing seal. At the end of his snore, there's a beat of silence. You tap. Click. The first lock flickers. The enchantment spins away into the air like a dissolving ribbon. Okay, 1 down. The second is trickier, a veil link woven with illusions. You reach out, but your hand passes right through the chest, then again and again. Every time you try, it shifts location, like a dream playing hide and seek. You close your eyes, breathe with the Archmage, and instead of reaching with your hand, you imagine reaching, and just like that, your hand feels it. The lock is warm, familiar, like an idea you forgot and just remembered. You click it open without even touching it. The second layer melts away. You smile. Maybe you're getting good at this. The third and final layer is the most delicate, a sentience ward. This lock isn't enchanted, it's alive, barely, just aware enough to scream like a magical toddler if disturbed. You whisper to it, voice low, respectful, "I'm not here to steal, just to understand." The ward pulses, and to your astonishment, it nods. The chains fall. The chest descends softly to the floor, no longer floating, no longer glowing, just waiting. You glance at the Archmage, still snoring. You flip the lid open slowly, and what you see inside, you're not sure if it's real or just dreamed real. Inside the chest, nestled like a sleeping cat in a nest of velvet, lies a mechanical puzzle sphere about the size of an apple. It gleams with shifting panels of gold, moonstone, and deep blue lapis, and every few seconds it lets out a soft tink as a piece moves on its own. You reach in slowly, half expecting it to sprout legs and sprint away, but it simply settles into your palm with an odd warmth. No instructions, no glowing messages, just that same rhythmic ticking you've been hearing all along. The gold notebook stirs again, flipping open and displaying a page that reads, "Final Lock. The Dream Mechanic. Wake it wrong, and you wake him." Oh, so no pressure. You sit cross-legged on the floor, sphere resting in your lap. The Archmage lets out a particularly impressive snore, complete with a little dreamy No more turnips. Right. Back to the ticking ball of consequences. The sphere has 6 rotating segments, each marked with ancient glyphs. Some you vaguely recognize from the Hall of Echoing Incantations. They shift on their own, spinning, aligning, misaligning. It's like a Rubik's Cube built by someone who got bored halfway through and decided to add ambient music. You rotate the top panel gently. It hums, then stops. Then the room pulses. You hear a deep snuffle from the hammock. The Archmage twitches in his sleep, nose scrunching like a sneeze is forming in a parallel realm. You freeze. The sphere ticks once, twice, then resumes humming, but softer this time, almost apologetically. Okay, lesson learned. No reckless poking. You close your eyes, steady your breath, and do what the page hinted. Sink. You listen. You feel. Snore. Click. Just as you tuck the vial into your pouch with all the delicacy of handling a baby made of clouds and moonlight, the air shifts. You feel it before you see it. A pulse,
like someone plucking an invisible harp string. The ground under your boots gives a tiny tremor. The walls shiver, then, boom! A hidden ward erupts from the ceiling, casting the whole room in a sudden cascade of blinding blue light. You yelp and throw up your cloak, shielding your eyes just in time to avoid becoming magically overexposed. The Archmage stirs. His snoring falters, turning into a confused, sleepy, "Huh? No, nope, nope. This is not how you're going out. You didn't crawl through whispering ivy, dodge spectral archers, and talk a sentient lock into chilling out just to get vaporized by a nap alarm. You dive for cover behind a nearby armchair that's floating, for some reason, midair. It bobs in confusion. You shush it like a frantic babysitter. Don't you float away. The blue light starts scanning the room in waves. You see the source now, a magical crystal embedded high in the ceiling, rapidly warming up like a sleep-deprived coffee machine. The gold notebook buzzes. You flip it open mid-dodge. Failsafe triggered. Unauthorized dream theft. Ward will attempt to identify and erase intruder. Counterspell. Not available. Good luck. Good luck. You scramble across the velvet floor, dodging the beams as they sweep like lazy searchlights. Your cloak snags on the hammock frame. You tug hard. The Archmage grunts, shifts position, and lets out a loud snurk that shakes dust from the ceiling. You glance back. He turns, but doesn't wake. Okay, he's still out, probably dreaming about sky turnips and levitating soup. You can work with this. You spot a cracked panel near the edge of the room, a maintenance hatch. It's glowing faintly, but not blue. You dash for it, vaulting over a pile of scrolls and a teacup that's somehow both empty and steaming. You reach the hatch. Locked. Of course it is. But you've had enough of locks. You whisper the first nonsense word that comes to mind. Snizzlebump. And kick it open with your foot. Miraculously, it works. You dive inside just as the crystal above flares brilliant white. The blast scorches the air where you stood seconds ago. You smell toasted enchantment and regret. But you're safe. Barely. The tunnel beyond slopes downward, away from the heart of the tower. The alarm resets, and the Archmage, still snoring. For now. The escape tunnel is narrow, sloping, and lined with pipes that hum with residual magic. Every so often, a gust of lavender-scented steam hisses out of a valve, making you jump like someone just whispered your deepest secret into your ear. You don't stop moving. Your boots skid slightly on smooth stone as you descend, the vial of dream stuff tucked safely inside your pouch, its glow leaking through the seams like a comforting nightlight. Behind you, the aftershock of the ward crackles distantly, like the tower is annoyed, but too sleepy to get up and do something about it. The deeper you go, the more the walls start to tilt, as if the architecture is reconsidering whether up should be allowed. You brace your hands on the slick surface to keep your balance. Occasionally, a chunk of ceiling dust sprinkles down like magical dandruff, reminding you that this place wasn't designed for high-speed exits. Then, up ahead, you see it. A thin shaft of moonlight. An exit. Your chest swells with the thrill of it. You pick up speed, dodging the final set of slowly rotating gears built into the passage. Probably another spell mechanism half fused into the tower's bones. You duck under a levitating crank handle, jump over a rolling orb that might be a sleepy security droid,
and burst through a curtain of soft vines that smell oddly of chamomile. And just like that, you're outside. The air hits you like a blessing, crisp, cool, tinged with the earthy scent of midnight. You stumble onto the stone landing at the back of the tower, hidden beneath a collapsed archway long swallowed by ivy and forgetfulness. The stars above you shimmer like they're clapping politely. Somewhere in the distance, an owl hoots like it's saying, "Nice one, nerd." You pause to look back. High above, the tip of the Archmage's tower glows faintly, warm and unbothered. The wards have settled. The dreamer sleeps on. You smile, exhale, and pat the pouch at your side. A creak. You turn. The familiar, the dream lion moth puffball, sits on a nearby rock, tail curled around its taws. It stares at you, blinking slowly. You freeze, but then you make your way down the winding hill trail, the path backlit by starlight and that distant, smug tower silhouette. The vial of dream stuff nestled in your pouch pulses with warmth, steady and slow, like the heartbeat of the nap itself. You take a moment to sit on a mossy rock, boots dangling over a quiet stream. The whole valley is peaceful now, and the adrenaline that carried you through magical mirrors, phantom arrows, and sass-filled books is finally wearing off. Your limbs feel like warm butter, your eyelids like velvet bricks. But there's one thing left. You pull the vial into your hand and hold it up. The silvery liquid inside swirls hypnotically, reflecting the stars, the moon, and even a vague shimmer of your own slightly sleep-deprived face. You hesitate. After everything, should you open it? But something in you already knows. You don't need to. Because the moment you touched that vial, the moment you synchronized your breath with the Archmage's dreaming rhythm, you became part of it. The tower let you in. The magic recognized something in you, maybe your patience, or your stubbornness, or the way you didn't freak out too badly when chased by sentient staircases. You slide the vial back into your pouch. You'll know when the time is right as you rise and head into the woods toward wherever the road leads next. A glint of something half buried in the dirt catches your eye. You kneel, brush the soil aside, and there it is, the real treasure. A tiny fragment of a dreamstone, glowing just faintly. The kind that can only form at the edge of lucid magic. The kind that only appears to someone who's walked through a dream and left it intact. You smile. You tuck it into your pack. You made it. Through the traps, the echoes, the dream riddles, and the infinite staircase of regrettable leg cramps. You made it. You didn't wake the Archmage. You didn't get turned into toast. And most importantly, you found the treasure. Because let's be honest, no one else could have done it but you. And now, the tower is far behind you. Just a shadow stitched against the stars.
The vial of dream stuff rests silently beside you, no longer pulsing, just being. The wind is soft here, gentle and curious, as if even the air wants to hear your story. You settle into the grass beneath a sleepy tree, letting your body melt into the earth, every bone unwinding like a ribbon. Somewhere, a stream murmurs its lullaby. Crickets sing with the patience of old magic. You close your eyes. Your fingers still remember the rhythm of that enchanted vault. Your breath still matches the snores of the dreaming Archmage. But all of that can wait. Right now, there's only this moment. You are safe. You are whole. And whatever the next journey is, you'll be ready for it. But not tonight. Tonight, you rest. Good night, treasure seeker.